Applause for Aaron Ashmore! Yeah, okay, good.
Let's have a little cut.
This is great. Where's my wife?
How's it going, guys? Oh, there's a lot of you guys here. It's good to see some nice faces out there.
Well, you're pretty nice too.
This love seat's getting a lot smaller here.
All right, so I'm going to ask him a couple of questions to warm things up, and I welcome people to get it in the middle here. We have a microphone. A lovely lady who's going to help us with the microphone, so please go ahead and line up there. So, my first question is, you have a brother?
Is that a question? It's more like a statement.
It is a statement.
Okay.
And you've worked with him on one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time, Fringe.
Yeah.
Woo! Did you ever work with him on TV or movies? Or?
We started doing commercials as kids, so we definitely worked on a couple commercials and that, like a Fruit Loops commercial and I think a couple other things. We also did, oh yeah, I can say this here and people will know. If it was in the States, people wouldn't. An episode of Mr. Dressup.
Oh my God!
I don't think it was. I don't know, it's pretty gangster.
What was that?
I think that was 94 or 93 or something like that. So yeah, like probably towards the end of the Mr. Dressup run. Casey and Finnegan were not there. I know it was those other puppets that came and took over now.
The loser puppets.
No, I mean,
sorry for the
yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but yeah, sort of.
Our puppets were better.
So yeah, we've done some stuff over the years, but Fringe was the one thing that, like, sort of as adults that we've worked on together. And we're always looking for something cool to do, but we always get pitched these scripts or these ideas that's like sort of like Parent Trap or something, where it's just about like switcheroo. And that's not really what we're looking to do. So we're always looking for a cool script that hopefully we'll be able to work together. But the best thing about Fringe, well, at the time when we worked on Fringe, I'd seen a few episodes, but you know, there's just so much stuff on TV, so you don't get around to a lot of stuff. And when we did it, I was like, wow, this is a great show, like really cool cast. It went really, really well. But then after the fact on Netflix, I started watching it, and I was like, oh my God, this show is so good. So I'm sort of glad that I hadn't seen it when I did it, or I would have just been like geeking out the whole time. You know, like it wouldn't have necessarily helped the performance. I'd be like, oh my God, we're in the alternate universe.
Are you following that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. So, but it's really actually neat to work on something, and then after the fact become like a big fan of it. And I also, you were sort of mentioning something about Veronica Mars, and that's sort of, I did like the first 4 episodes of that, and I thought it was really cool, but after sort of getting, like watching it because I was on it, that's another show that I totally fell in love with, and I was like, this show is amazing.
Yeah, it's really too bad that ended when it ended.
Sometimes the good ones get axed before their time.
Yeah. You said it.
I'm still pretty upset about Firefly.
Let's start a rumor here.
Yeah.
So you've been acting for a better part of 20 years, and you're 36, right? So,
Easy.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I just turned 36.
Oh yeah, you're younger than me, so I can, say, hey. But 36, wow, that's a really amazing career. I was like, I have to do the research for the guests, and it's just pretty intense. Are you afraid of the dark and shows like that?
Yeah.
So how did you start? Was it your parents pushed you into it, or?
It's sort of a bizarre story. My mom was part of something called a twin and triplet club. What? So basically the idea was sort of like a support group for moms and dads that had twins and triplets, and they could commiserate over how difficult it was to have multiple kids at the same time. And I guess we were living in Edmonton at the time, and a representative from a local TV station came and said, hey, we're looking for kids to do commercials. Would anybody's kids be interested? Obviously, when you're little, they sort of like switch you in and out or whatever, because there's child labor laws here in Canada. It's good for that. And so my mom just asked us, she said, would you guys be interested in doing some toy commercials? And I was like, well, what do we have to do, play with toys? You know, as an 8-year-old, you're not going to say no. You're like, yeah. So that's how we started. And the first job I actually booked, but the morning that I was going to go shoot it, I had the stomach flu or something, puking. Well, my mom was panicking, and she called me and said, well, look, Aaron's sick, but Sean, his twin, you saw him, he looks exactly the same. Can we bring him in? And they're like, yeah, whatever, you know, sure. So I do joke and hold it above Sean's head that I started his acting career. Without me, he'd be nowhere.
So speaking of Sean, my last question before we turn it over to folks, so please line up, guys. Speaking of Sean, how many times today have people said, hey, I loved your X-Men?
Actually, surprisingly, very few. I just did a con in London, Ontario, in September, I think. And we had a running joke. We were marking down on the table how many times people came up to me. And like for some reason in London, Ontario, Aaron Ashmore does not exist. There was only Sean Ashmore in that universe. Like literally, like 40 people over the weekend came up and were like, hey, oh my God, the following, oh, you're so wicked in that. Oh, we love it. And I'm like, it's really awkward too to be like, yeah, that's not me. That's my brother.
We tempted to scratch out your name and put Sean's name.
Yeah, just go with it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have any X-Men pictures here.
I sold out, man.
Yeah, no problem. So, to this weekend, actually, so far, not much at all, but sometimes it happens quite a bit. Yeah.
And how do you...
I have a feeling now people are going to come up to me just to do it as a joke. So thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, you're quite welcome. All right, so let's go ahead. Actually, one last question before no, let's take your question. Mine will be filler.
Hi, really nice to meet you again. I had a question about Killjoys for the new season coming out. By the way, I was at another convention I won't name when you kind of pre-launched the show while you were still filming the second episode and had to wait 10 months for the show to come out. It was well worth the wait. It's a fantastic show.
Thank you very much.
The ship seems to have a certain different relationship with you versus, your character versus Dutch.
A sexy relationship?
Well, I was able to see at least an emotional attachment. And I was wondering if the ship to me is actually an interesting character with the way it does kind of interact with the crew. And I'm wondering if there's going to be something building on that maybe in the next season in regards to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, for those of you guys that haven't seen the show, it's called Killjoys, and our ship is an AI. She has sort of a personality of her own. And yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we haven't started shooting the second season yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. But we sort of, between seasons, bat around ideas that, potentially there could be an episode where Lucy takes a physical manifestation, easy for me to say, manifestation, and so, being able to sort of interact with her more in a certain way, or also just sort of that idea that she becomes more attached to us and there's more sort of personal development, so that her character is really evolving. So I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but obviously she has favorites. They made that very clear.
Yeah.
And
that was one of my favorite things when you had Dutch and the character who plays your brother up there locked in the ship.
Yeah.
Your character was in trouble on the planet, and the ship's like, nope, you're not going anywhere. And it's like, well, he's going to die if we don't go. Okay, ship, so security unlocked. Let's go.
Yeah, it's kind of cute, the dynamic there. But the thing is, like, my character, I'm the one that interacts with her all the time, so it's sort of interesting and natural that a bond would form, even though she's, an AI. So, yeah.
Thank you. One other thing, you kind of put out a triple dog dare on CBC Radio on Thursday.
What did I?
I was wondering if we could get you to do the song for Mr. Dressup.
To be honest with you, I would, but I actually don't remember it. Like when I heard it on the CBC, like the guys like, Alan was like, we've got a special thing for you, and I was like, oh my God, what's it gonna be? And it was that, and I just was dying laughing. I was sort of embarrassed, but then also I was like, oh, this is amazing.
I had to write it down, like, must not forget that.
If I knew the song, honestly, if I knew, I would sing it for you. Something about playing a drum.
Yeah. Symbols, isn't it?
Symbols, yes, yeah. Oh boy, here we go.
We're gonna learn it for next time.
Yeah, I'll memorize it for next time.
I don't know. Okay. Hi. So, what's your favorite thing about acting?
How much time do you have? We've got an hour. Here we go. I mean, there's different things. I think one of my favorite things about acting and specifically sort of working in like sci-fi and fantasy genre is that you really get to use your imagination. You really get to sort of push the boundaries of what, you know, normal life and what you get to do. So it's really fun to inhabit a character, but then also one of my favorite things is these like strange and magical worlds that you basically get to create. And they sort of, they exist in like a writer's mind who then sort of explains it to us, and then as actors and the crew and stuff, and then we sort of inhabit that world, and then it starts to exist in everybody's mind that watches it. So to me, that's kind of like a magical thing that we all sort of share when we get into these shows, specifically sci-fi stuff and fantasy stuff. But yeah, it's just fun. You get to do things that you don't normally get to do, that you might not ever explore or do in real life, because that's not who you are, that's not your personality. So just getting a chance to sort of touch on all these different things is, yeah, it's cool, it's fun. You get to play make-believe for a job. It's not a job, you know, like you call it a job technically, but really you just get to play around with it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hello, Darth.
Hello. So I have to do this.
Oh.
Siri, find Mr. Dress Up theme song. No, I won't. Sorry, somebody's gonna do it. I thought it'd be me. I won't do that to my friend.
I appreciate that.
So you sort of mentioned a little bit a few minutes ago, you know, with your brother and stuff like that, and I'm not making this about your brother, but the confusion sometimes in your roles. So is there one role that you would have loved to have done that he did, and what role did you do he wants to do? Because you guys must talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, I actually have followed my brother's career, obviously, very closely, and I'm one of his biggest fans. Like, I'm so happy for him and the things that he does, and sort of vice versa. We're very, very supportive. But I mean, to be on Iceman, why would I mean, that's like, what an amazing role, what an amazing series and stuff like that. So I mean, that's kind of the thing that I'm like, of course I would have liked to play that role. I think that he did a fantastic job on The Following too. I think that was a really interesting show, and yeah, like that down front. Okay. So I mean, there's lots of stuff, but I mean, Iceman, I haven't got to play like a hero yet. I got to play a sidekick, you know, Jimmy Olsen. But to play a superhero would be amazing. So I think that probably getting to play Iceman would be fantastic.
Not his character from Frozen where the wolves are chasing him and eating him and...
No, that's less appealing to me.
Okay, just checking. But to bring it back then, what role do you think he would have loved to have done that you have been a part of?
That's really interesting. To be honest with you, I don't know if I can answer that. Like, we've never specifically had that conversation, but so I don't know if I could answer. I could call him. I don't know. That's actually an excellent question. I'll have to ask him that. I'll put it on Twitter. You know, I'll ask him and be like, look, tell me what it is. I need the inquiring mind.
Guy in Ottawa asked me this question.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, we've never had that conversation. So it would be purely speculation on my part. So I don't know. But I'll ask him.
Well, I would love to say that I follow you a whole lot more than your brother, and I'm just getting the Killjoys now. I'm very excited. I'm about 3 episodes in, so no spoilers today, people.
It only gets better.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Congrats on season 2, by the way.
Thank
Love
you very much.
Killjoys. It's amazing. Just out of curiosity, I mean, like you've gone through a whole bunch of sci-fi shows before, but with Killjoys being like an actual in-space spaceship bounty hunting type of stuff, do you ever find people tend to like try to draw parallels between Firefly and your show? And does it get on your nerves when they do?
No, it doesn't get on my nerves at all. I think when the show first came out, there was a lot of sort of, because we're sort of bounty hunters and because we're sort of like out in space, I mean, obviously there's sort of it's easy to make parallels. But I think once people start to watch the show, I think they realize that there may be some similarities, but more just sort of in a general premise, but not actually the tone of the show is not that similar, I don't think. But of course that would piss me off because I actually really enjoy Firefly, and it's like one of the most, obviously fan favorite shows out there. So if people were making those comparisons, it's certainly not a bad thing. So no, I don't. I think it's a good thing.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Morgan, also known as Root Kaiser on the internet. Now, I was wondering, since I only have Netflix, I don't get to watch much TV.
Me too, I don't have cable. Overrated.
Yeah. Have you ever, browsing through Wikipedia, I found that you had a brother and all that sort of stuff. Have you ever gone, switched places at cons, something like that?
This is what I always say to people, because everybody thinks that being a twin is so fun, you get to pull pranks, but everybody confuses you all the time anyways. You just want people to be like, oh, Aaron, how are you? So there's just no need to pull pranks. Everybody's constantly mixing up anyway, so no, we haven't done that yet. We probably never will.
Like one day, you're like, I'm tired, bro, can you take over for me,
One day, when they were shooting X-Men 2 in Vancouver, I went to set to go just for a set visit, and all the crew, the assistant directors and stuff, thought it would be so funny if we tried to fool the director, Brian Singer. And I was like, all right, I guess, sure, let's see how this goes. So I guess Sean was supposed to be going to set, so they brought me in, and they sort of stood beside Brian, and he went like this, he just went, "You're not Sean."
What gave me away, sort of thing, eh?
Yeah. I think we just had slightly different. We don't look that similar if we're standing side by side. It's there's definitely, a lot of resemblances, but there's lots of things that are different. So I think I also had a slightly different haircut than Sean. So, and he knew that we were twins, that Sean had a twin. So yeah, it didn't really work. So the one time we tried to do it, it failed miserably. Okay. So I was like, F it, we're not gonna do that anymore.
Now, for me, as an entertainer on small social media and all that sort of stuff, what kind of tips would you give to rising people that want to try and be in your position, but in a world of such red tape and all that sort of stuff?
Well, as far as I could tell you how to do the acting route, the agent, all that stuff, but I think that's, as far as the social media and building yourself up in that way, I'm definitely not an expert in that field. I think there's so many, it's really interesting now. There's all these YouTube stars and Instagram stars and stuff like that are so well known because it's such a huge way of communicating now. So I don't know how to tell you how to get your Instagram game up or your Twitter game up, but
yeah, just because there's a lot of red tape in the world where say you can't do this here, can't do this there.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. that's an interesting sort of way of sort of building yourself up that I don't really know how to do.
Start with kid commercials?
Kid commercials. Start with kids.
How do you get an agent for that then?
Well, the way we did it back in the day was there's all these agents, you sort of submit yourself, you pitch yourself to them, and one of them will stick. You get a lot of rejection. People are like, oh, we're not taking new clients, or we're not interested, or whatever, but somebody will stick, and then you just start auditioning like crazy.
What, do you go on Kijiji and say, hey, is there any agents looking?
No, it's, literally online, Google talent agents, and then, they all have, websites and phone numbers and stuff like that, and just bug the hell out of them.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Hi.
That's good.
Good.
I can't complain.
Huge fan of Warehouse 13. Loved your role. Question. What was it like to be killed and brought back? And did you know you were going to be brought back when you got killed?
Let me
It's been out for a long time.
spoiler. Yeah, it has been.
There's going to be a statue.
Aired for a long time. Yeah, sure. So, if you don't want to hear anything about how Warehouse 13 goes, cover your ears now for the next 2 minutes. And let me just say that I have died many times in my acting career. I'm somewhat of a pro at it. But the cool thing about dying in a sci-fi show or a fantasy show is that you can always come back. There's definitely ways for this to happen. So, yeah, I'd only signed on to do 10 episodes of Warehouse 13, so I knew that, something was going to happen. Either I was going to leave the show for whatever reason, or I thought maybe I would die. But, when you do turn that page and you see your death scene, you're just like, it never feels good. But when we were shooting it, the executive producer, showrunner Jack Kenny said, "Oh, we'll bring you back next season. We're going to bring you back. Don't worry about it." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice of him to say." But until it actually happens, you don't know. But then, sure enough, season 4, I got a script and I was back in it. So it was not great to see that scene dying, but sort of with a little bit of reassurance that they're going to bring you back, it's kind of nice. Yeah, and if you're doing a cop drama, you certainly wouldn't get that. They're like, "Oh, your character's dying." It's like, "Oh, maybe they'll bring you back next season." No, it's pretty final. It's pretty final. Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Before we move on to the next question, you've been on a lot of single episodes of shows, and, appearances in movies and whatnot, and so those tend to be like short shootings. But then you've done also a lot of long-form television, recurring characters, 53 episodes, and that's Jimmy Olsen. How does it feel to end or to die or to stop a show like that? Because I'm sure you get pretty close to the cast.
Yeah, it's kind of emotional, and when you do like play a character for like 3 years, I mean that's the most I've ever played a character for is 3 seasons. But you spend a lot of time on set. You spend a lot of time like in that character even. So the idea of like not playing it anymore and sort of having to move on. I mean, what's going to happen even if it's just like a show ends or something like that. But it's kind of emotional. You get attached to the people that you're working with. You get attached to the characters. So yeah, it's definitely difficult to move on after you've been with something for a while. I think if you do it for too long, I think a lot of people are just very happy to move on from characters. They like get really burnt out on them, and they're like, "Yeah, I've done everything I can do with this one." But for me, I've never really been in that position because 3 years is a long time, but it's not that long. So I think you really start to, get attached to them. It's difficult. It's difficult to move on. Single tear.
Hi. You mentioned earlier that you sit down with the writers and start plotting things out. Do you get a lot of insight, or do you get to have any input on that?
No.
No?
Very, very little. We're just actors.
So they just sort of like surprise you with stuff? And...
Yeah, it's really interesting. Different creative people on different shows sort of work differently, but basically you're mostly in the dark. Actors are like mushrooms. You guys know how that works? Keep in the dark and feed them shit. Little joke. Sorry if there's any kids here, so I don't. But yeah, it's sort of different creative things. Like on Warehouse 13, they were very upfront about what we were doing. We would have scripts really, really early, and so we'd have a lot of time to work with stuff. And that's not really the norm, though. Most shows, they sort of give things to you last minute, and they don't tell you what's going to happen, which is kind of nice because the characters don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Like there's always something that you want to know what's going to happen ahead of time, but it doesn't really help your performance or anything like that. I think sort of being I think some people tend to then telegraph where things are going or sort of change their performances because they know that it's going somewhere, but in real life that wouldn't be happening. Things would be happening out of the blue. So I think that we do get to sit down with the writers and stuff and sort of have discussions and that. And I think the more they know about you and who you are, and they can sort of insert a little bit of your personality into the characters, I think that makes them a lot stronger. So I think that they do tend to do that a little bit. But unfortunately, no, I can't just be like, well, this year I think that Jimmy Olsen should have gotten some superpowers. I think he should be able to, fly and kick butt and stuff. They didn't go for that. They don't want to hear that kind of stuff. So I think that because actors would be selfishly pitching things that would make them, self-serving and not necessarily serve the story. So I think, unfortunately, they don't listen to us too much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Have you ever encountered actors that want to take a little too much control of the story? You don't need to name names.
Absolutely.
It's between us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's people that sort of start to cross those creative lines a little bit, but yes, it happens.
Sure, it's no fun for everybody.
Yeah, it's just awkward. It's power struggles.
Yeah.
And it's a bit awkward. So it's nicer when everybody kind of stays in their lanes.
Hey, I was wondering, have you ever passed on a script and then seen it realized and kind of regretted not going for it? Or do you do that, read scripts and if you pass on them, make sure to watch whatever it is, realize?
I knew it was going to be terrible. And it was. Yeah, I mean, there's the reason that I usually pass on things is because I don't think that I can do a good job at it. where it's just like, yeah, I can't see myself doing that. Or it's like really offensive. I find it to be offensive. Like I've read some horror scripts, and I like horror movies, but I'm just like, that's just incredibly offensive. Like I wouldn't want to be attached to something like that just because of some of the stuff that's happening. And I'm just like, there's, just no, thank you. But there's definitely things that I've read that I'm like, I know this is going to be amazing. I just don't get it. There's certainly things, like there's a movie, I don't think it's come out yet, but it's like, it's called Carol, I think, and it's like, I think it's Kate Blanchett and like Rooney Mara and stuff like this, like these really big actors, and it's like, I just was reading these scenes to audition for it, and I did audition for it, so I'm like, this is going to be a great movie, I just know it, but I was like, I don't get it. So, like there's just certain things that, yeah, you just don't connect to or don't click to. But I can't say that I've ever passed on anything that then I watched and was like, wow, that was really, really good. I wish I'd done it. Yeah, not yet. I'm sure one of these days it will, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you a writer in a script that I passed and you're just like, you're like, sucker, it turned out really well.
You walk around with your clipboard.
Yeah. Not gonna hire him.
Hi, so you talked about you died a lot on TV, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about your revivals on television, more specifically on the Smallville season finale when you get to portray Jimmy Olsen again. So what was it like to come back for such a big episode and to see the cast again and see how Chloe had moved on and spent her time with Oliver instead? So how...
Are you ready to talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was very surprised when they killed off Jimmy Olsen in Smallville, because I was under the impression that Jimmy Olsen doesn't die. So I was like, huh? What? So it was a bit of a shock. And I think that a lot of the fan base was like, what the? It was very like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And so I think that they really brought me back. They could have cast another actor, but I think they brought me back just to be like, see, it's okay. Yeah, it worked out in the end. But I actually really enjoy, I really like the death scene in Smallville because I sort of, oh God, spoilers. Yeah, earmuffs. Just the way it went down, like how I ended up saving Chloe and killing Doomsday. Who couldn't do that? Superman. Superman couldn't do that. So, just saying. I thought it was really, really cool the way that it played out, and I didn't think it was a cheesy or a bad death scene. I thought it was like a really cool way to go out, but I still was a bit confused. I've been doing interviews for 3 years being like, yeah, I'm the iconic Jimmy Olsen. That's what people ask. What's it like to play the iconic Jimmy Olsen? I say, oh, it's great, it's fantastic. And then, they're like, oh, by the way, you're not really Jimmy Olsen, you're his younger brother. Stupid. Or older brother. Yeah, so it was a bizarre sort of scenario and that, but it was really cool to come back and get to work with all those people. It was only a day, so I didn't really get to spend a lot of time, but it was good to see everybody again. And that's the other kind of neat thing about doing all these cons, is that you end up bumping into people that you work with on... Silence, please. He's not red at all. On set when a phone goes off like that, it's $10. Just saying. It's cool to bump into like actors and stuff. Like we all sort of go our separate ways, and people are living in different towns, doing different shows. But that's the kind of neat thing. Is like I bumped into Allison Mack a bunch of times at cons. Yeah. Oh, funny story too. Smallville story. I was at my local coffee shop in Toronto like 3 days ago, and I'm ordering a coffee, and I know the barista pretty well, so we're kind of chit-chatting, and all I heard is, Aaron? And I turn around, Kristen Kruk. I hadn't seen her in years. Yeah, it's just like such a bizarre sort of thing. She shoots Beauty and the Beast there. So it's just bizarre, you know what I mean? So it's kind of neat how you just bump into people along the way, but you're like, yeah, so it's kind of fun just bumping into people along the way.
Awesome.
I think I lost the thread of the question there. I started rambling, but hopefully you got some information.
Kind of a broad question, but what's the worst story you have from acting and the funniest story?
Worst story. Like in what capacity?
Like, what's like the worst thing that's ever happened?
Well, I'll tell you a really difficult scenario that I had recently. I can't tell you what the movie was, but it was probably my worst sort of acting experience, like working in the business. I auditioned for this movie. It was a very big movie, maybe a superhero movie. Didn't get the part that I auditioned for, but I got a much, much smaller part. But it was a big movie, so I was like, this part could end up on the cutting room floor. Like, who knows? Like, it wasn't a very big part. But as I went to set, or like beforehand, so I'm like, I auditioned for this other part, but I got cast in this other role. I'm like, what's the other role? Oh, it's a secret. We can't tell you. Oh, okay. So we're gonna get the scene though, like before we shoot it. Well, no. Actually, when you get there, the director will explain to you who your character is and what you're gonna be doing. All right. So like, I'm not gonna have time to memorize my lines or like, think about the character or anything. No. He's gonna tell you when you get there, what your lines are and what your character is. I was like, I've had nightmares like this. Like showing up to set and like. I literally have had nightmares like this, like going to like a big movie star. It's like, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to the scene today, and I'm like, what? I don't know what character I'm playing. I don't know my lines. Oh, you'll be fine. So I literally have had nightmares like this. We show up to set. Director's like, okay, so these other two actors, you guys are gonna be in here. What's your name, Aaron? Yeah. Hey, how's it going? So you're gonna be coming through this door here, and you're gonna come in here and you're gonna say, rattle off all this information. Then he's gonna say something. Then you're gonna say something, and you're gonna leave. And he's like, okay, go. I'm like, what? Oh yeah, we'll worry about the words. Just come through, do this thing. So literally, didn't know what my lines were. I knew nothing. And so when we were shooting it, I just kept screwing up the lines because I hadn't memorized it. It's like this big block of text. So that was my worst acting experience ever. Because it's like this big movie. You want to do, you want it to be good. You want to, it's like everybody in the world could see this. And I was so ill prepared. So that was probably my worst experience. My best experience, I've been really blessed to work on like a bunch of shows that I've really, really liked, and with a bunch of people that I've really, really liked. So it's kind of hard to pick like one moment that's been like really the best. But yeah, so actually, to be honest with you, that's really, really tough to pick like the best moment. But I really liked Warehouse 13. Shooting like the last episode of Warehouse 13 was really, really sad, but also just like so much fun.
I actually didn't know that was over till now.
It's been over for like 2 years.
It's been on my list for a very long
Okay,
time.
well we shot 5 seasons. It's a really fun show.
You died over.
I died, but I came back. All right, now I feel bad. Well, anyway, no, actually saying that it's over is not really. I mean, it is what it is. But watch it. It's fun.
I plan to.
It's full of endless wonder.
Thank you very much.
Like our work down here?
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, who's the biggest goofball that you've ever worked with whenever the cameras turn off?
Michael Rosenbaum. Without a doubt. He was such a good bad guy and was like so menacing and stuff like that I was like, oh, this guy's gonna be like probably, a bit of a jerk or whatever, but he's like the biggest goofball I've ever met. And also second is Eddie McClintock from Warehouse 13, but that's not a surprise, right? So that's the thing, it's like I didn't even think about Eddie because it's like, oh yeah, Eddie's just a goofball, like full stop all the time. But yeah, Michael Rosenbaum he was like the class clown. Basically, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. I'm wondering if there's a favorite artifact from Warehouse 13 that you wished was real and could have had for yourself.
Well, my favorite actually artifact was the metronome because it brought me back to life. So I have a very personal connection to that artifact. And I have it in my house now. I have the metronome. We all got to keep an artifact. And they're like, what do you want? I was like, I want the metronome. So I have it in my house, like in my office. I have it. Yeah.
Awesome. Great show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have other pieces that you've kept? You guys can light up if you have.
No, well, I mean,
From different shows, you mean?
Different shows or movies that you worked on?
Well, usually we don't get to keep a lot of the props and stuff. A lot of them are incredibly expensive because they have to fabricate them specifically. And a lot of the times with those things, they raffle them off for charity stuff or whatever. So we don't get a lot of stuff. Sometimes we get to keep the clothes. That's always a bonus. Don't have to go shopping.
Sometimes you get to buy your clothes and show up to set.
Yeah, totally. And what else? You know what? I sort of collect posters from the stuff that I do, and also the chair backs. A lot of time you get the production name and then your name on them, and they're sort of low profile, they're easy to keep. So I do keep a lot of that stuff. But no, I don't have a lot of actual sort of props and stuff from shows that I've done.
Do you collect other stuff?
I read a lot of comics. I wouldn't say that I collect them because I sort of when I'm done reading stuff, sometimes I pass it on, hand it off. So I don't it's not about keeping them.
So you buy more of the graphic novel.
Yeah,
full size.
Yeah, totally. The trades and stuff, and then sort of pass them on if everyone wants to read them. But
what are you reading now?
I haven't read it much, and I don't usually end up reading a lot in the spring and the summer because it's nice out. But last year, I read Lock and Key. I don't know if you've read. Yeah. So it's amazing. So I sort of got all that stuff. I also really enjoy Stephen King's Dark Tower. I don't know if you.
It's funny that you mentioned his son.
Yeah, well, totally. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And then Stephen King's Dark Tower in the comic form.
Yeah, well, I've read the novels, which I think are better. Yeah, than the. But there's something about that story that I really like, so I picked up all that stuff too. Yeah, but that's funny that the Hills and the Kings. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't know if you're familiar with the viral videos with Brandon Routh and Nathan Fillion, the guys who played Superman, where they get together and play.
I haven't seen that. No.
It's really funny. But I was wondering if you ever thought of putting together a Jimmy Olsen club with all the actors who play Jimmy Olsen.
Well, we actually did. Well, I know Sam Huntington really well, so we sort of goof around. There's been talk about having a boxing match between Sam and I. Some guys were like, we should set up a boxing match between you two, and you guys wrestle for a week. And I was like, well, I don't know, maybe, but sounds fun in theory. But we actually did I think it was season 7 of Smallville. They did a special feature with Jack McClure. Is it Jack McClure? Where's Jack McClure? Right? Yeah. Myself, Sam Huntington, and who's the other one that we had? Who's the oldest? He just passed away. Anyways, they got all 4 of the Jimmy Olsens together, and we sort of did a round table talk about it, and it was really fun. But yeah, that'd be cool. It's just it's kind of everybody's all over the place, so to get everybody together would be maybe difficult, but that's a fun thing. I'll put it out on Twitter. Hey, Jimmy Olsens.
Thank you.
Let's have a hang.
Yeah, there's a new Jimmy Olsen too.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Tallest Jimmy Olsen.
Hey, never
Jimmy.
The beefiest Jimmy Olsen of all time.
So Killjoys is a fairly short season. I was just wondering, is there any benefit for you as an actor doing shorter seasons?
Yeah, I mean it's nice for paychecks for longer seasons because you obviously you get to work more and it's kind of acting is so sort of sporadic. You never it's sort of you work and then you have so much time off. So it's nice when you get a long season. There's some security there. But the other thing is that you sort of do it, it's short and sweet, and then if there are other opportunities, you can do other stuff. You could do a movie, you could do some guest stars. So as far as variety of your acting choices, that's kind of nice. So yeah, you get to at least try to do some other work. But I like the long seasons personally, especially if it's a character that you really like. And I love Johnny, so I'd love to. I'd do 20 scripts with Johnny anytime. Thanks.
If in a future show they did an evil clone idea and they said, do you want to do it yourself? You could do you and then you could do the evil clone, or to call in your brother, it was your choice. What would you do?
Well, we did an episode of Warehouse 13 in the last season where there's sort of that exact sort of thing happened, where my character got sort of split into 2. Spoilers. And actually, we tried to get Sean to come up and do it, but he was busy working on something else. So they ended up doing like a green screen where I played both versions of myself, and that was kind of fun to do, I have to admit. When Sean couldn't do it, I was like, because I would have probably played the nice version, and he probably would have played the bad version, and that's no fun. So I was happy to play both.
And the budget people were like, damn.
yeah.
Special effects.
Yeah, they're like, great, thanks Sean, thanks, not available? Wouldn't have written the script.
While we're waiting for the question up here, Sam Huntington, you played Jimmy, I was going to call it Jimmy Olsen.
Jiminy Cricket.
Spider-Man's spell, Superman's spell. Yeah, great job.
On point today. Really nailed it.
Stop over Red Nets. So you've been friends with him for how long, and how did that come about?
Well, we worked on a show, Veronica Mars.
Okay,
we did an episode of Veronica Mars and just kind of hit it off and just, like had a lot of fun working together. And then, it's the acting thing, right? So it's like you're constantly bumping into each other at auditions, and we have a lot of friends in common because when he did the Superman movie, the guys who wrote that were my roommates. So there was just like all this sort of like connected sort of thing. So we would just bump into each other at parties and stuff all the time. And oh my God, I just had something in my head about Sam. Oh, the other thing that with Sam is that it was like between him and me for Being Human. We both tested for that, and then I didn't get it. And I was like,
same role?
Yeah,
hilarious.
So you just sort of always bump into each other. And I remember at the time, I was saying to him when we tested for that, I was like, if anybody else is going to get this part, I wanted it really bad. I was like, I'm glad it's you. And he said the same thing. Like you can't really be mad at a buddy for like doing well. And then right after that, I ended up getting on Warehouse 13. So I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so it's like you just sort of people that you end up working with, you bump into in all sorts of different capacities, and it's really sort of a small industry when you start like actually working around it, but you end up bumping into the same people over and over and over again.
Yeah, especially in Canada where we have all these sci-fi.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
The backers.
Yeah.
You're going to check out The Expanse when it comes out.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, I saw the pilot.
Yeah, it looks big. Apparently like the biggest budget show that sci-fi's ever done. So yeah.
It looks great.
My question is, if you could switch places with someone doing another role on any of the shows that you've been on, who would it be and why? For like a day. Or longer.
Forever. Well, I think it would have been pretty cool to play Superman. And it's just so like opposite of the role that I was playing on that show. So I think that would have been, pretty cool to just walk around as Tom Welling. I'm Tom Welling. How are you? I have amazing hair. I'm incredibly handsome. How are you? I think that would have been really fun. Yeah, Superman. Why not? I think Superman would have been. I mean, there's lots of interesting characters on different shows that I've worked on, for sure. So there's lots of different roles that I would like to play. But yeah, I think I'll go with I'd trade places with Tom for a day.
We have time for 2 more questions. Speaking of superheroes, if you had to choose like a Marvel or a DC or any comic, since you're a comic fan, turned into a movie or TV show, what would you hope to get?
Well, they've done everything. Everything's already on the air. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that that's a good question. Well, you know what I'm sort of really looking forward to is Preacher.
Oh God.
I think that's going to be really interesting. I sort of like a lot of that Vertigo stuff that's darker and maybe not quite as sort of classic comic booky, like a little bit sort of off kilter. So I think I am really looking forward to that. I'd really love to see them do a Sandman movie or TV show or something like that. I mean, basically impossible, right? So, but that's still something that eventually I think would be really, really cool to see.
I'd see you in a Saka version of the hero. I forget the character's name, the new guy with the horns.
The horns, yeah. I've only read the first one of that, but I really liked it. So yeah,
kicks ass.
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you for being Steve Jinks. and the fact that he was gay was so not a big
Spoiler.
deal.
Spoiler.
And that, sorry, spoilers. And that was wonderful. And so really wish that more shows did that and had it just be so downplayed the way it was on Warehouse. So that was really awesome. Thank you. So my question is, in a fist fight, who do you think would win, Steve Jinks or Johnny Jaqobis?
Interesting. I think John, because I think that that's they sort of trained as a bounty hunter and stuff like that. But I think it would be a good fight. The thing is, John would probably try and talk it out first.
Yeah.
Because he's sort of the peacemaker, and then maybe Steve would get in a cheap shot, and then that would piss John off, and then John would pick the butt. That's I'm seeing how it would play out. Yeah, that's how it would play out. Excellent question.
You'd be a great writer.
Yeah.
I've never asked a question out loud before, so I'm like shaking.
Yeah, you've never asked anyone a question before. This is incredible. I don't know how you got through your life. It's amazing. I'm happy to be your first.
So, of all the other TV series that you have never been guest starred on before, is there one that you wish you had on, or one you'd like to, like supernatural films in Canada?
Game of Thrones. I do that.
Fucking Dre.
Oh, you know another show that I loved? Yeah, sure, I'll do Supernatural. I did a movie with Jared. We had a Christmas movie years ago, and we had a blast. Like, he's like the nicest guy in the world. So I would do that. Also, a show that I loved. It's not obviously not in here anymore, but I love Lost. I would have loved to do anything on Lost. I wish that I'd never seen Lost, so that I could watch it again. For the first time. So yeah, Supernatural and Lost.
We want to get supernatural people here, please.
Okay.
I don't know if you can help, but
I will see what I can do.
thank
You're very welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ashmore, for being in Ottawa today. Everybody's
so
here.
close to me on this couch the whole time.
So cozy.
I always get a little bit nervous coming up here, but having you up here with me, I felt very relaxed. So
I'm usually very nervous up there,
Yeah.
and then I'm up here and I'm more nervous.
Well, thank you for being a great host.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thank you guys for sticking around and for asking lots of really good questions. I appreciate it.
Aaron's going to be signing autographs and things for the photo op. Are you photo op there today, or are you?
Yeah, but I think there's some tomorrow if you're around.
Yeah, so if you're around tomorrow, he's doing photo ops, so feel free to stop by his table, leave him a chat, and
Come chat me up.
as you see, he does not bite. Unless you want to. So thanks, give a big round of applause.